Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. You know, guys, this case, the Mica Miller case, and of course, her husband, uh, Pastor John Paul Miller, uh, it's becoming more bizarre as we find out more and more information. And I want to thank a lot of you people in the chat that are holding me to task because sometimes I'm taking things a little bit for granted in the way things are supposed to be done as compared to the way things are actually done. And Melanie Lynn in the chat, you asked some really great questions, and I'm going to read some of them. Where is the bullet casing? The police said the body and the gun were found in the water but did not mention the casing. Casing seems like there should be one. There absolutely 100% should be one. Is it possible, even with the best response and crime scene unit, that because she was near the water, that they couldn't find the casing? Could it have gotten lodged underneath the water somewhere? That's a possibility. But that's a very good question because absolutely they should find the question. And one of the things that's disturbing to me, and I'm really just finding out about this because I assumed, and again, as they say, when you assume, you make an ass of you and me, that in all suspicious deaths, including suicides, there should be an autopsy. And to my bafflement, I can't find any paperwork for it. Therefore, perhaps it was not done. Which in a case like this, with all the glaring suspicions, the marital case going, well, a divorce was pending. Certainly, the more we find out about this Pastor John Paul Miller, the more suspicious he gets, and the more I don't like the guy at all. I don't like what I see as they pull or as they peel the layers of the onion away, we're finding rot in the middle. And, you know, still, there's other content creators that are coming up with other things that, in regards to the pastor, and most of the things that cannot be verified. I'm not going to report out there, but there's reports that he's now being investigated by the FBI. Fits News, FITS News, reported some really scandalous sexual habits and things that he had forced on Micah in a report that they did and was reported on one of the content creators' sites. And another thing was this allegedly, again, not documented anywhere, that the surgery that he forced her to get was breast augmentation surgery, which apparently she did not want to get. So this guy he ran her life. He was like a terror, this guy. And that's Pastor John Paul Miller. Melanie Lynn, no autopsy was done. So even if she was cremated, the bullet would survive the heat. Did the police collect it? At least to confirm it came from the same gun she purchased at the pawn shop. Melanie Lynn, again, another great question. The problem is if there was no autopsy, then the bullet is probably left inside the body. That it was never retrieved. So again, outstanding question, and I don't have the answers. And the answer, if there was no autopsy and no proper crime scene protocol potentially was followed, because they're not considering this a suspicious death. Many times a suicide, if the gun's on the scene, the person called 911 and indicated their intention to commit suicide. To a lot of police departments, that would be an open and shut case, except there's extraneous information here. There's background information that makes this case extremely ugly. And Again, this was in a different county. Micah committed suicide in Robeson County in Lumberton Park, the state park in North Carolina. So a police department that knows or knew nothing about her was in charge of this death investigation. And as I read the report that they did, which is nowhere nearly an autopsy report, we're going to go through some of that. It answers a lot of questions, but it leaves a lot of questions unanswered. And like all of you guys want to know, where on her body did she shoot herself? That is what's in an autopsy report, a scientific examination of the body after that, after death. An autopsy, by its definition, is an internal examination of the body after death. No one here is satisfied that that was done. And if it wasn't done, why wasn't it done? And now that's an impossibility because Micah was cremated. And do you think Pastor John Paul Miller, who was making decisions about his wife, who was divorcing him, but he was making decisions about her, how she was going to be handled in death? You think that the family was happy that he was calling the shots when her wishes that she was divorced from this guy who stalked her, abused her, treated her horribly? And this is the guy who's making decisions. And I'm gonna show you some of his sermon. Just to me, just absolutely horrific. Teresa Coppola from the chat, excellent. Melanie Lynn, excellent questions. I hope they're seen and discussed. Yes, well, we just did. Again, what you guys want to know from the autopsy: what hand was the gun in? Was there gunshot residue on her hand? Was it a close contact wound? Where was the wound? Was the wound in the head? Was the wound inside the mouth? Many people that commit suicide, I hate to get graphic, but that's why they put the gun. Again, you mentioned where was the shell casing? Where was the gun found? Was the gun found on the shore? Was the gun found in the water? And where exactly was the body found? So because this is a suspicious case in regards to the contentious divorce she was going through, people want more than just that written report put out by the office of the Robeson County Sheriff. They're just not believing that. And then in my show last night, many people in the chat, and I don't live down there, obviously, they're screaming out what a corrupt police department the Robeson County Sheriff's Office is. And, from what I could see also, the Myrtle Beach police, last night's show, our whole show, we were talking about why with 14 complaint reports, why was John Paul Miller, a man of the cloth, as you see on the screen, why was he never arrested? Why was he never arrested for all of the transgressions, crimes he committed against Mica Miller? Stalking her, abusing her, aggravated harassment to her. Why was he never arrested? Those are some of the questions that I have. Yeah, preach, Pastor Miller. Preach, And now I guess that his attorney is feeling the heat because he's starting to punch back at. He doesn't threatening content creators, threatening journalists about this guy. Dude, I think you got all your hands full with law enforcement agencies that are going to be coming after this guy. And two, I have in mind right away. One, of course, we're just hearing, and I don't know exactly what type of case they have against him or what type of case they're investigating. That's the FBI. It's never a good thing when the FBI is investigating you. And then there's another alphabet unit that may be looking at him, and it's called the IRS. And I wish the IRS would look at a lot of these, preachers that flying their own planes and got all kinds of money, but no one knows where it came from. And here's this guy using money to threaten his wife with, not paying for this, not paying for that, holding back her prescriptions. This guy, I mean, as we peel the onion open, we get more and more from this dude. All right, folks, if you like true crime, real crime from a police perspective, you're in the right place. Police Off the Cuff. And if you like it off the cuff, you're about to enter the off the cuff zone, the Police Off the Cuff zone.
There has to be some common sense.
Yes, sir. They have the car stopped at 10th and Grant. Michael Byler.
We still don't know who pulled the trigger.
Guys, so some of the new things, and I'm trying to find a comment just put here by Whit James. Here we go. Whit James, thanks for the $4.99 super sticker. Family and lawyer confirmed on Banfield on the 10th. No autopsy, no gunshot test, no toxicology, or to see if water was in her lungs. Whit James, what that would prove is that if there was no water in her lungs, that she was dead before she hit the water, that the gunshot caused her death. Lizzie Hertzberger, Bill, you know I'm a number one fan of Police Officers the Cuff. Thanks for covering this case. I'm sure still so disturbed about all the info coming out and continue to have more questions. You know, Lizzie, I sometimes err on the side of the police, and I see things in this case done improperly from a procedural perspective. Doreen Ware, he will answer to God one day. And it's beyond me why there was no autopsy in this case. Just baffling to me. And then the fact that the very person who should have been arrested for abusing her runs her funeral and is in charge of her body and has her cremated. To me, that is outrageous. Just totally outrageous that that could happen. Monica Lynn, wow. Let me just find you. There you are. Monica Lynn has gifted 10 Police Off the Cuff channel memberships. Monica, thank you so much. That's so generous of you. We're building this Police Off the Cuff family, and I like the Shamrocks. I happen to be a little bit Irish, they might say, and I love the Shamrocks. So thank you so much, and thank you for gifting those 10 memberships. It makes the channel grow, and I really appreciate it. So, guys, even, you know, I like to read the chat. I like to see what you guys are saying. It's just Panthera La Luna. About 20 minutes ago, Robeson County, North Carolina is now asking FBI and U.S. Attorney for help. Excellent. Excellent. Because, look, as I said, we could not prove, and there's no proof that J.P. Miller did this. But did he drive her to this? Did he drive her to commit suicide? You bet he did. And anyone that goes to see this guy preach ever again is just, I don't understand how you could trust your soul to a guy who has no soul himself. Just, you know, totally outrageous. Melanie Lynn, you're very welcome. And Melanie, thank you so much for your input. It's very much appreciated. And I stubbornly refuse to believe that there was no autopsy, but now I accept it. There wasn't one. And the very person who had the most to gain if there was some criminality to this was J.P. Miller, Pastor J.P. Miller. And he's the one controlling the body, controlling whether or not this case, well, law enforcement could have superseded everyone and said, no, we're doing an autopsy. This is a suspicious death. We're gonna make sure there's an autopsy. So we slam the door on all the potential questions that people could have that think that this is a suspicious death, which it is. It is a suspicious death, but it's just Mel Stiller, Melissa Stiller, whole Sergeant Bill, and everyone in the chat. Melissa, thank you so much for being here. Monica Lynn, love you all. Thank you so much, Monica. I really appreciate that, guys. So we're gonna keep following this. There's some good coverage on this. Some people that have boots on the ground, and when we look deeper into this, it uncovers a sinisterness in this Pastor J.P. Miller. And if we can believe some of the things that he allegedly forced upon Mica, not only should this have been a divorce proceeding, he should have been arrested. He absolutely, and so I have to think that because he was not arrested, that perhaps he has some influence over the local police, over the local politicians. He has some power and influence. Perhaps many of the police attend his church. But in my Joanne Harris, I'm going to play some of his I'm going to play some of that right now, as a matter of fact. Let me bring it up for you guys. This is to me the creepiest sermon, creepiest honorarium. How would you honor someone with and first of all, why should you be doing this? She wanted you out of her life, and now in death you're back in her life. So let's watch a little bit of this. We won't watch the whole thing, but it's really disgusting. This is Pastor J.P. Miller about to give a sermon in regards to his deceased wife.
You know, I've been speaking for many years, and for the first time, I don't really know exactly, you know, how to open or how to close or any of that. I'm just, you know, everyone knew how beautiful she was on the outside, you know, but only I think a spouse knows how beautiful that person is on the inside. So I want to take a few minutes to just kind of tell some stories and just share some things about Mica that may, I don't know, shock you or help you get to know the more intimate side of her. She was beautiful on the outside. She had won so many beauty pageants, you know, all when she was young, and I have one of her trophies here where she won Saucus the Idol. Let me tell you, just to talk about how pretty she was on the outside. When she went to one school, she won the, you know, Miss whatever the school was, beauty pageant. And then her family moved and she went to another school and she won the Miss Beauty pageant for that school too. So it was the first time in that county's history that someone won, you know, both the pageants. But it really hadn't hit me. You know, I've gotten to spend, as Christians, of course, we know she's not here and in heaven, and she's, you know, worshiping and enjoying, and I hadn't even had time to look down here yet. But I got this lay next to her body and spent time with her body about 4 times this week, and each time it still didn't hit me. I thought she was going to wake up. You know, I even tried to raise her from the dead.
That comment right there, I cannot take that. Did you hear what he just said? He said he even tried to raise her from the dead. Now, who's an EDP? Who's an emotionally disturbed person? Is he trying to say that for the benefit of his parishioners, or does he really think this? This guy is beyond delusional.
One time this week, and that morning, actually, I went to the mall later. She had bought me this dog tag, and the chain broke, so I went to the mall to get it fixed. And I saw a female about 20, 30 feet in front of me, and she was wearing one of Mica's dresses, and she had the same tattoo Mica has on her arm and the exact same hair. And out of just instinct, I screamed, "Mica!" And the girl turned around, and it was one of her sisters. And I thought I raised her from the dead. She's alive, you know. But I can't wait to see her again one day.
I don't think she wants to see you though.
I'm good. So I have pictures, and I want to just tell you some stuff about her. When we fell in love, and we started dating, and it was time to get engaged, she loved public displays of affection. Like, she loved that. She always wanted me to, hug her in public and stuff like that. And I'm more of a private person. But I thought, okay, we're going to get engaged. I'm going to make it, I'm going to make it everything she wanted. So I set up a church baptism out on the beach so that everybody in church could be there, for us to get engaged and be a part of that. And then I had this plane that was going to fly by and have "Will You Marry Me," Mica, there, and she's going to love that. And so everybody's kind of waiting. The baptism's over, and we're out there playing volleyball. And all of a sudden, the plane comes by. And I take Mica and I turn her around and I face her toward the ocean, face her toward the plane. And everybody's clapping and cheering. And she leaned back. She said, "Why is everybody cheering?" I said, the plane, the plane, the plane, the plane. And she said, "Oh, I don't have my contacts in." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm playing this whole thing." I got a picture of that, I think. Yeah, there. And her exact words were, she said, she turned around, "There's the plane up there." She couldn't see it till we took a picture later. Her exact words, I'll never forget. She said, "Well, yes, anyways, yes." And she had a hoarse voice that day from singing. And but she was always excited about stuff, always so excited. I'm sorry if I'm just rambling, but I'll do my best. She loved Solid Rock. She served this place for over a decade. Her time with Reverend Randall, I think is there a picture of her and Reverend Randall somewhere there? And Reverend Randall never gets his picture taken. So when she got this, she was so excited. She sent it to me. Said, "I got Reverend Randall's picture," and we had it blown up, and it's down here. She loved that. She was the worship leader, and she was bold and confident and anointed and passionate. And the very first time I worked with her on that, I said, "Okay, I'd like you to try to lead a song, and I'll help you." And I told her what I wanted her to do. About 3 minutes later, she's like, "No, you're doing it wrong. I'm going to tell you how we're going to do it." And she said, "You missed this note. You need to fix this." She did. I thought, "Oh, my goodness." And she was the graphic designer. I think it's a picture of some of the stuff she designed. She designed every logo we got, every book, everything we ever did. And she loved doing this stuff. And she would do it with such integrity to the T. Like, I would say, "Okay, it's good. We're done." She said, "Nope, it can be better." I said, "No, it can't be any better." And she'd fix the slightest, smallest thing and spend 6, 8, 10 hours doing that. She was in charge of women's ministry, youth ministry. She loved that. She was the go-to person around here if anything was kind of messed up or needed to be fixed.
My thing, just to put something here, is that as we watch this, I think we have to realize in our minds, stepping back from this and not knowing Mica, maybe some of you in the chat do know Mica, she was aggressively pursuing this divorce. So in my mind, in death, he had no right to be the one eulogizing her. She wanted no part of him anymore. So why is he, think of the narcissistic attitude this guy has to have to actually eulogize this poor woman. Lizzie Herzberger, thank you so much for the 1999 super sticker. Very much appreciated. Lizzie Herzberger, if you guys don't know, she's an author. Behind the Blue Curtain, I'll put it in the chat. And she's an Amish woman. And she spoke about some of the abuse she suffered as a child in the Amish community. And that's the name of her book right there, Behind the Blue Curtain. You can get it on Amazon. And Lizzie is a big supporter of Police Off the Cuff. And she's been on my show a couple of times. And she's a great lady and a survivor. And that's what and all the cases that that we have of this nature, I think Lizzie feels personally, she wants to be personally involved in this because she wants to be a protector of women. And I understand that. So let's go back to JP Miller for a little bit.
Fixed or needed to be created. That was the thing she did. We spent almost every night just talking and chilling out. We didn't watch much TV. She would make me turn my cell phone off. And so I turned the cell phone off and we would talk for hours and hours about, well, let me rephrase it. She would talk for hours and hours and hours. And sometimes I would kind of not listen. I thought, oh no, is she going to ask me a question? I'd get back in my mind to what we're talking about. And she would change subjects. She'd go from one thing to the next. And she had the idea that to buy a blow-up mattress and put it in the back of the truck. And so we would do that, and she would make us hot chocolate in these in the coffee mug things that don't get cold. And we'd go park somewhere around here where there was no lights or no houses and just lay there and look at the stars and talk for hours. We probably did that hundreds of times over the past several years. We'd laugh a lot in the house. Our house was very loud. It was very loud, with kids and that such. Whatever room Mica was in, you could hear her in the whole house. She'd start singing about something or come up with an idea and everybody could hear. And one night we were going to bed. It was like midnight. And normally she falls asleep first, but I fell asleep first this night. And I don't know why I started talking in my sleep. And the sentence I was saying as I was talking in my sleep, I said, "Why are you talking in your sleep, stupid?" And I did that. And then I woke up and she said, "Did you just say, why are you talking in your sleep? In your sleep?" I said, "I think I did." And she laughed so loud. We talked about that one thing for the next 3 hours till 3 a.m. We were stayed up just talking about it. There was a time where for several months I got into those Pitch Perfect movies, the ones where the girls sing a cappella, and I thought Mica loved it. So we watched them like almost every night. We were watching a different Pitch Perfect. Then we rewatched them, and it shocked me. But after 15 times of watching the movies, one night she said, "I don't like any of these movies." And I said, "Baby, you don't?" I said, "Why didn't you tell me?" She said, "I knew you liked it, and I didn't want to, spoil the thing." I said, "You could have told me we'd watch something you wanted," but that meant a lot to me. What's the next? Oh yeah, there's designs. What's the next picture? Okay, so she loved to travel. I can't stand to travel, but she loved it. So we go wherever she wanted, and we went on a mission trip to Jamaica. It was like a 10-day mission trip. And we were in the jungles of Jamaica, and we're helping these other pastors and leaders. And there's churches that don't have ceilings and churches that are out in the woods. And it was so hot, like 110 degrees. We're sweating in everything we do. And after about 5 days, I said, "Honey, maybe we can just go home early. And, I know this is horrible. I'm so sorry that you came to me with this. I'm so sorry." She said, "Are you kidding?" She said, "I love this. This is great." I thought, "Oh, my Lord." And she loved all the mission stuff, places where you had to use the bathroom in the woods or places where there was no air conditioning at all. She loved that kind of thing until towards the end of the trip on Jamaica, one of the pastor's wives pulled a mango out of a tree. And she had never had a mango before and handed it to her, and she bit it. And here's what happened just a few minutes later after that. She's so up on the mission trip. Let's see, what's the next picture? Puerto Rico. So she loved Puerto Rico. She'd ride horse. She loved adventurous stuff. Like it was always something really adventurous. Riding a horse. What's the next one? Riding a four-wheeler out in the woods. What's the next one? Doing some kind of thing with the rope she wanted to do. And all these things scared me. All these things I would tell her, like, I don't think this is safe, honey. Like, I'm a lot older than you. I don't know if I should be doing this. What's the next picture? She wanted to do the candlelight thing out by the ocean. She loved that. She loved nature. She loved nature. So we went to Mexico. So my boys, the ones that were in college, they said, "Dad, we're going to Cancun on spring break, with all of our college friends." I said, "Okay, have fun." Micah said, "We should go." I said, "I don't know if we should do Cancun with all the college kids," but we did. And we were on a bus with all these college kids and going to do different things. And I'll tell you a great story about Mexico. One night, her and I, we were riding on a moped, just looking at everything around. And there was this hole in the wall, like looking nasty restaurant. And it said on there, "Tonight, karaoke." And I said, let's just check that place out. And we went in, man, it was packed. I mean, Mexicans everywhere. You look, not a single white person, not a single black person, and none of them spoke English. We couldn't even order the food because everyone's Spanish. And they were up there singing karaoke, all Mexican songs. And I said, "Honey, go see if there's a song in English that you could sing." She said, "I'm not doing that." I said, "No, you'd be great." So I went up there and I signed her name. And I put that song Sunday morning. And next thing I know, in this place, I mean, it is packed. People are standing up. There's no seats. And they said in broken English, "Mica Miller, Sunday morning," or something like that. And so she gets up there, and as soon as she starts singing, the whole place just stops and does this. And I thought, oh, no, she was right. They're not going to like her. As soon as they get to the chorus of Sunday morning, everyone in the restaurant stood up with their beers and started singing in broken English with her, the chorus of Sunday morning. When she got done, they all screamed, trying to tell her to stay up there. So she sang another song. Then they wanted to stay there. She sang another song. She sang 5 songs in a row in English, and every one of them sang the songs with her. And that was a great memory. She loved that.
Well, I think that judging from the chat, you guys have had enough of this guy. But I just wanted to sort of underline and hit it home how the narcissist nature of this guy, that he is there eulogizing her when she wanted no part of him in life. But somehow in death, he hijacked her service. Exeter Line 1930 from the chat. Note that the waitress looks like Mica if she was wearing a lot of makeup. Yeah, I think I have a picture of that waitress in this thumbnail. That she is in the one in the middle there, and that's the one he gave a large tip to. And the story was is that he asked her, left his phone number, and this is when his wife. I don't know if this was pre or post her suicide, but he asked her to send him pictures of her in a bikini or naked or whatever. I don't have the exact. We don't know the exact thing he asked. She was on Banfield and wouldn't say exactly. She said he wanted erotic sort of pictures sent. Phoebe L. Phoebemeister. I'm not a hateful person, but I hate this individual so much. Hear it, he deserves less than nothing. Justice for Mica. Phoebe, you're 100% right, and you're preaching to the choir, as they say. Monica Lynn, I live next door to Robeson County, and we all know their deficiencies with regards to investigations, but as much publicity this case has brought to them, I haven't heard a peep from them. I think perhaps that they know they're deficient in investigating, and they just now we're hearing that the FBI, perhaps at the request of Robeson County, is going to get involved in this case. Teresa Coppola, that video was ridiculous. People who know JP say he pulled antics such as that multiple times. He did it in an attempt to garner sympathy, manipulate his first ex-wife when she was divorcing him. Mark Williams, I get sick just hear this man talk for a minute. How horrible it must have been to have lived with this man for years. Well, Mark, one of the things that I keep saying is, how are people going to go back to his church and listen to this guy? Are there really going to be parishioners that are going to listen to this man? And that I find horrific. Brittany Burnham, why would you share that picture of her having an allergic reaction? Brittany, something. You're right. I mean, this guy's inappropriate at every level. Joanne Harris from the chat. He's a weirdo. Yes, yeah. There's are people. Brittany Burnham. This man was out dating right after she died. Yeah, that's how much he cared. That's how much he was upset about the impending divorce. Yet, it was one of those people. If I can't have you, then no one's going to have you. That's pretty much of his philosophy. The Astro from Space, that's the pastor of a church that won Church of the Year 4 years in a row. South Carolina, y'all crazy. Wow. Yeah, I have to agree. Kira Little Sky from the chat, he is a delusional psychopath that is totally convinced he has everyone fooled. 1979 ACL, what was the age difference between them? Well, I believe she was 30 and he's 44, so 14. But when you put it, when she was 14, right, and he was 28, that's when there was a problem. And we can't find any criminal allegations, but everyone is saying that he groomed her. And that is the part. Yeah, Monica Lynn, right? 14 years difference. Joanne Harris from the chat, mate, she left you. She hates you. Melanie Lynn, Pitch Perfect story seems fake. Those movies are aimed to please singers. He hated those movies, in my opinion. You guys, Flower Power. He's such a jerk. This gaslighting the congregation is sickening. Again, I just wonder how anyone would go back to his church after all of the things that have come out and all the things that surely will come out now, now that the FBI potentially is going to be involved in this case.
Myrtle Beach pastor. Robertson County Sheriff's officials say this woman, Mica Miller, died by suicide in a North Carolina state park only 2 days after serving her husband, John Paul Miller, divorce papers. Well, today we've obtained multiple police reports alleging abuse, grooming, harassment, and also stolen church funds. News 13's Adriana Lawrence tells us what those reports revealed.
News 13 obtained various reports today from Myrtle Beach police. Mica and John Paul Miller got married in 2017, but Mica claims in it she's known him just since she was 10 years old. It says she goes on to claim John Paul, quote, groomed her while she worked for him at Solid Rock Church. Mica and John Paul Miller have about a 14-year age difference, putting John Paul at 24 years old when Mica says she met him at the age of 10. Mica was 30 years old, and police reports show John Paul Miller is 44. Reports state the two separated in January 2023. It adds she was involuntarily hospitalized in a mental health facility for 2 days on February 8th of this year. It also says when she was discharged, Mica said hospital staff told her her husband had picked up her purse and car keys. She found her car missing and called the police to report the theft. She added she believed John Paul committed her to steal her car. The report states the officer contacted John Paul, who said he and his wife were not legally separated and she suffers from mental health disorders. It says John Paul then pointed out the car was marital property, so no criminal offense was made. Court documents we obtained showed John Paul also had power of attorney over Mica's health care. Mica's siblings allege in court documents recently filed in a bid to control Mica's estate. John Paul transferred assets and moved Mica's personal belongings while she was hospitalized. And we also obtained a report that states an unnamed female employee of Solid Rock Church was accused of stealing nearly $1,200 from the church. The money was to go towards a mission project in Jabrok, Kenya. The police report from March 13th says a church employee was sent to collect donations for the church's nonprofit Dare to Care mission. But on February 14th, the police report states donation funds from the church's Zelle and Cash App accounts were transferred into her personal account at South State Bank. This unnamed female is also accused of collecting cash donations and depositing them into her personal account. While his name is on the report, it's not clear if John Paul filed the police report or not. On the church mission's website, it dedicates it to Mica Miller. News 13 talked to Charles Randall, head church official at Solid Rock, who said he did not want to comment at this time. Myrtle Beach police say the case was closed on April 12th from a lack of probable cause. News 13 will continue to investigate Solid Rock Church.
So, one of the things that is very common in DV cases is that people try to make revenge reports against each other. So Mica made a report, of course, of JP stalking her and taking her car, all of those things we just spoke about. And that report about a female stealing money, that was undoubtedly made by JP against his wife. So it was a retaliation report. And whether it is, in fact, has any truth to it or not, we don't know. But it's a retaliatory report. And law enforcement always has to be very conscious that that can happen and perhaps not take a report, investigate it before. And if there's not proper grounds to make the report, do not take it. With James, the church had a congestion of only 30 people yesterday morning, for what people who live there say. With someone in the chat just said he's been fired as the pastor. And I from what I understand, he sort of, they sort of just chilled him out for a while. It wasn't like officially you're fired. And I think that he's so involved in the church, I don't know if they really can fire him. They could give him a little leave of absence. But we're going to look at that. We're going to see what actually happens down the road. Leif Grahamson, that term self-induced sounds so odd to me. Yeah, well, he probably meant to say self-inflicted, but because he's a man of not a lot of good words, Flyer B, the family said 10 relates to 2010. In their opinion, she is around 14, 15 years old. Yes, that there was a mistake. Apparently, he didn't know her from the age of 10. He knew her from the age of 14 when she started going to the church. He started babysitting her children. What everyone, of course, was looking for was a improper relationship when she was 14 and when he was 28. People are looking for that. So far, they haven't found that. Did he groom her? You tell me. What do you think? You think he did? Last video, he said he had prior assault convictions. What were they about? Who did he assault? How badly did he injure them? The reports that I had said that he had several assault reports that didn't name against two, and that he pled guilty. So the matter was disposed of, but he does have a criminal history. And that's what we, as investigators, we always look at someone's background to see who they are. And that's one of the things that tells us a lot about a person. Kira Little Sky, that was escape money, and I bet he took it when he killed her. Follow the money. You know, Kira, we can't say that he killed her. We could say that he perhaps caused her to commit suicide. But right now, there's no evidence that he had anything to do with the actual taking of her life. Irish Rebel, the money went into her account after she died. Phoebe Master, I'm so glad the FBI is involved. And I am too. I think that hopefully they'll get to the bottom of this because he's gotten away with so much while she was alive. And perhaps this investigation will proceed after she happens to be dead. And this guy doesn't get away with it forever.
Nation legal analyst. Listen, Mica was clearly under duress. She called police 15 times in the last year. And this allegation that John Paul met her when she was 10 years old and began grooming her, could he be charged for crimes related to that?
Let's talk big picture. Even though Mica's no longer here, he could still be criminally and civilly liable. And by the way, in South Carolina, unlike other states, there's no statute of limitations with crimes. So if we're talking about, let's say, for example, grooming, there's no crime of grooming. It kind of encompasses
it's
other
creepy.
things. Well, it could be sexual exploitation of a child. Now, I don't want to make innuendos. I don't want to make accusations, but these are really serious matters we're talking about. She's alleging things of perhaps assault. She's alleging things perhaps of exploitation. She's talking about how she was involuntarily committed to a hospital. Now, what complicates that is he did have a power of attorney, but
why? Is that normal?
So generally speaking, power of attorneys are when someone is in a position where they can't make healthcare decisions for themselves.
Right.
If this is a situation where she could, and I don't know what the terms of it
she's
said.
young and healthy.
She's
just saw
young and
that
healthy.
video she made of herself just not even 2 months ago?
Exactly. I mean, the terms of it would be where she would have to be in a position where he can make those decisions. But again, you have witnesses who sign that. So something's not adding up about it. Doesn't mean it's a crime. And it seems like her family is suggesting, and we know that the burden of proof is lower, they may file a lawsuit. And, you know, there's something about a wrongful death lawsuit. They may not be able to prove in a court of law that there were crime was committed, who's responsible for a death, but a wrongful death lawsuit, the standard's lower.
There is case law that, you know, there was a case in Massachusetts a few years ago.
Yes.
A woman was found criminally responsible for her boyfriend or fiance's suicide, driving him to suicide, with only her words.
Yeah, that's the Michelle Carter case.
Right.
And look, that was involuntary manslaughter. That is when you're acting in such a reckless way that it's foreseeable your actions would cause the death of that person. We have to be very careful about that. Unfortunately, in today's society, people take their lives for a number of reasons. They blame a number of people. We can't open the floodgates for crimes to be committed unless he was directing her to kill herself or encouraging her to do it. I don't think that's going to fly there.
Oh, what an awful case. I'm sure we're going to learn more as this the family continues to push for an investigation. And thanks so much.
I think that the only hope we have in this case is civilly. I think they're going to, hopefully the family will take his money. But maybe now with the FBI involved, there'll be more to it. With James, thank you for this comment. JP pleaded guilty when he was with his first wife, Allison, for hitting her with his car twice. So that was the assault then. That's his criminal record. And I don't have a copy of it right now, but that video of him laying on the ground, he seemed like a psycho. I don't know what that was all about. But then when you see that he had his wife put into a mental hospital, and he's got serious mental issues himself, it doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense. Kathy Almonte, JP's dad is wanted in Pakistan for molesting a girl. There has been reports of that, and I don't know where his dad is right now, if he's sort of fleeing the jurisdiction. What the heck took Robeson County so long to care about doing things properly and thoroughly? But if it's true that they are asking the FBI and U.S. Attorney for help, then praise God. Teresa Coppola, you're 100% right. If they can't handle it, it seems like they couldn't. Wendy Covington, they can't fire him. His family owns the church. Yeah, so this guy's probably going to be around in one way or the other. Phoebe L. Phoebe Master, yes, he totally groomed her. I believe that 100%. Sharon Reynolds, sorry, I'm late coming in. Sharon, I'll mark you late. I won't mark you absent. As if this is a classroom, right? Michelle DeMattis, groomer / pedo. Emma Grant from the chat, how was he able to get her body when she filed a protective order? That is insane to me. Also, he was stalking her, even in death, going to see her 4 times, allegedly before her cremation. Creepy as hell. Emma Grant, I 100% agree with you. Folks, this is Police Off the Cuff, real crime stories. If you like real crime, true crime from a police perspective, then you're in the right place. And if you're not subscribed to us, go on our YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, hit that like button, share us with your friends and your family. It is free, as Joe Rogan would say, it's free to subscribe to Police Off the Cuff on YouTube. But if you want to contribute to us financially, we have a Patreon with 3 different levels. We also have a YouTube channel membership with, count them, 5 different levels. And you can support the Police Off the Cuff channel through that. And we appreciate all of our fans, our friends, and our subscribers who keep this show going. Dawn Croxton, so creepy. At the memorial, he said he laid by the body for 4 days. What? Yeah, that was a little bit. And, you know, the real thing that just got me was that he said he tried to raise her from the dead. Like, dude, are you kidding me? You know, you're not even a used car salesman. And, you're trying to raise her from, please stop it, you know? Michelle DeMattis, I do not think she killed herself, not for a minute. Pauline Buckles, you'll have to have Bobby Chacon on again, Bill. I love Bobby Chacon. He's fantastic. He's in California, so a show this time might be a little too early for him. Starting at 5:45 would be 3 hours earlier in California. 2, 3, 4, be 2:45. So he might be a little bit busy at that time. But yeah, I will definitely have Bobby Chacon on again. Good friend. He's a fantastic retired FBI agent, talking head on all the TV channels, attorney, just great guy. Fairy Dust, in my opinion, she was forced to make that call by the poo-poo. The whole thing was staged deal again, in my opinion. Fairy Dust, I like that little meme you have there. It's nice. Monica Lynn, I did listen to the dispatch record, and she hung up immediately after saying she was going to take her life. Then dispatch was trying over and over to get her back on the line. Yeah, Monica, we actually critiqued the job that the 911 operator did, and we weren't really happy with her job. We felt that when Mica said that she was going to take her own life, that she should have really been proactive and really trying to get her to talk more, and instead she sounded like she retreated. And I don't know if Mica hung up the phone, but it didn't sound like she was up to it. Luna Sukabus, this case is so very relatable to me, as I'm sure it is to Amy, others. So to many, I think you wanted to say, to many others. So I want to say this while you're keeping us in suspense, because I don't see what you said. Schmitty, so much power he wielded, except the power to resurrect her from the dead. Humph. Yeah, I don't know where that guy came up with that. Phoebe L. Phoebe Meister. I'm really hoping somebody gets them children away from him before he damages them worse than what he already has, them poor babies. Yes. I wanted to go over the document, and I'm going to do that right now, that was put out by the Robeson County Police. I'll actually put it on the screen, and I'm going to read it. I'm going to try to read it quickly because it's rather lengthy, but this is in lieu of, apparently, of an autopsy. Robeson County, Office of Robeson County Sheriff, a death investigation that has tugged on the hearts of people across the nation has been ruled a suicide. The decision was based on surveillance footage, interviews, physical evidence, and the examination of the North Carolina Medical Examiner's Office. On Saturday, April 27, 2024, at approximately 2:54 p.m., Robeson County Emergency 911's Communication Center received a 911 call from a female. The caller asked the dispatcher if her phone could be located because she was going to kill herself and wanted her family to be able to find her body. During the conversation with the dispatcher, the caller hung up the phone, and the dispatcher was able to contact the caller. The dispatcher was able to find the location of the caller and dispatch the deputy to the location. The deputies contacted the Lumber River State Park superintendent upon their arrival at Lumber River State Park in Orem, North Carolina. The deputies and state park rangers conducted a search of the area for the victim. The search was aided by the Robeson County Sheriff's Office drone. During the investigation, a black Honda Accord with a South Carolina registration was located in the parking lot of the state park. The investigators confirmed that the vehicle belonged to Mica Miller, 30, of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Investigators located a Sig Sauer gun case in the passenger seat of the vehicle and a box of ammunition at the center console of the vehicle. Investigators also found a receipt for the Sig Sauer handgun from a pawn shop and a receipt from a convenience store in the vehicle. Both receipts were dated for the same day of Miller's death, April 27, 2024. During the search of the park for the 911 caller, investigators were approached by an individual who had found a bag near the water's edge with an identification belonging to Miller. The individual stated that he heard someone crying and a gunshot while he was fishing. Law enforcement continued the search, and emergency 911 received a call from an individual who stated that a body was located in the water. Law enforcement responded to the location and contacted the North Carolina Medical Examiner's Office upon locating the deceased. The victim was identified as Mica Miller. A Sig Sauer 9mm handgun was located in the water at the crime scene during the search of the area. The serial number on the weapon matched the gun box that was found in Miller's Honda Accord. During the investigation, Miller's phone and other personal belongings were located. A search of Miller's phone revealed that she conducted a Google search for national parks near me, and a Lumber River State Park location was provided. The investigation also revealed that Miller and her estranged husband, John Paul Miller, had been separated and were involved in the legal system. This information led to the investigators confirming the whereabouts of Miller and a female that he is allegedly romantically involved with. Investigators were able to confirm that both individuals were not in North Carolina on the night before and the day of Miller's death. Investigators learned through interviews that John Paul Miller was at an athletic event in Charleston on the day of Mica Miller's death. John Miller's vehicle was observed traveling on Highway 17 bypass in Horry County at 2:22 p.m. on April 27, 2024. The investigation confirmed that John Miller was accompanied while traveling to and from the event in Charleston, South Carolina. On Tuesday, May 7, 2024, Sheriff Bernice Wilkins, investigators, and the medical examiner met with the parents and immediate family members of Mica Miller. John Paul Miller was given the opportunity to attend a separate meeting, and Miller indicated through his attorney that he would not come to North Carolina to meet with the investigators. I thought perhaps he was advised not to do that, to come, because of his attorney was maybe concerned he was going to get arrested. Investigators conducted several interviews and developed a timeline of events in relation to Miller's death. I'm not going to read the entire timeline. According to the sheriff, first, let me say on behalf of the Robeson County Sheriff's Office that our sincere condolences being sent to the family and friends of Mica Miller, says Sheriff Bernice Wilkins. The incident has garnered much attention from across the Carolinas and beyond. I want to assure everyone that a very methodical investigation was conducted by our criminal investigations team and crime scene investigative team. That would indicate to me that the crime scene unit responded to the scene. Unfortunately, rumors and conspiracy theories were spreading quickly and assumptions were being made. However, in the end, we must make decisions based on the facts and evidence that has been gathered. While I know it's not what many people wanted to hear, the evidence is quite clear and compelling. We are saddened as anyone that this occurred. There are many factors that we have reviewed that occurred over an extended period of time that are probably related to the reason for this investigation, but in the end, sadly, a tragic decision was made by Mica to end her life. And that's their investigation. And yes, we here are not satisfied with that because it doesn't answer all the questions that we might have. Again, the casing. Where's the spent shell casing? Was that recovered? If it wasn't, why didn't you indicate that? Where was she shot? No one has indicated what part of her body she was shot. There's many other questions you guys had. His car, John Paul Miller's car, was seen on that highway, traveling on that highway, but could they say he was the one in that car? And I don't think they could, because if it's for example, a camera that just takes pictures of a license plate reader, it's not going to see the person inside the car. It's just going to read the license plate. Monica Lynn, I'm hoping her family sues him in civil court. If nothing else, make him spend money on an attorney. That may sound spiteful, but it's the only way for them to expose him now. Monica Lynn, I agree with you, and I think that Mica's estate deserves a piece. She was married to this guy for several years. In many states, marital property is split in half. Gnostic Gnetiv, anyone still attending this church is there for the gossip. It's clearly not a good spiritual home. That cat, couldn't the suicide call be AI, not actually her? Yeah, well, to be 100% suspicious, yeah, it could be. But there's other evidence that they recovered. Some of the evidence, some of the real heartbreaking evidence is right here. Let me just get the chat off the screen. That's her walking into the gun store. That's her walking up to the counter, and it's time stamped, and then here she is purchasing the 9mm Sig Sauer from Dick's Pawn Shop in South Carolina. So some of the evidence is layered. There's several layers of evidence, and some isn't. And we want to know the answers to the evidence that's not satisfactory, the evidence that you guys ask about. Well, did she have gunshot residue on her hand? Did she have tattooing? If she shot herself in the head, was there tattooing indicating a close contact wound? Was there anyone that actually saw her? And that fisherman who heard her crying, that was very close by, he's what's called an ear witness. He hears her crying, but he doesn't see what actually occurred. So it's complicated in that way, yet it's complicated in that way, yet there's many questions, but yet if they would have, I think that they didn't do they did a pretty good, decent job, the Robeson County Sheriff, but they didn't slam the door on the investigation. And that would have only been accomplished through an autopsy. And the mistake or the decision made not to do an autopsy, to me, is a huge, huge mistake. Not just a mistake, it's the law in almost every state. A suspicious death automatically gets an autopsy, and this one didn't.
The attorney says they are exploring legal options right now, but meanwhile, we're learning much more about the ugly twists and turns of the couple's relationship. Joining us now is News Nation investigative correspondent Rich McHugh, who's been on this story since it broke. And Rich, you have some exclusive new video.
That's right, Elizabeth. We have new video, but I want to give some context before we get to the video so our viewers can understand this. In the past couple of days, we filed a lot of Freedom of Information requests for police reports in Myrtle Beach, where she was living. We received about a dozen of them, and it shows that in the months leading up to her death, her calls to the police were frequent. She made 2 calls to police on March 11th. This is important because it corresponds with the video we're going to show you. I want to read from the police reports that day. The police officer writes of responding to East Coast Honda in Myrtle Beach in reference to harassment, that Mica was getting her tire fixed after it was slashed, that she told the officer the tracking device on her car, that the suspect showed up, quote, she told him to go away, she does not want to talk, and when she pulled out her phone to record, he sped off. The victim then leaves and goes to East Coast Honda, and then the suspect showed up again. That appears to be this moment we're seeing at East Coast Honda. Let's roll the tape.
Walk away.
I'll show you the pictures.
Do you want to go to jail?
They'll be on Facebook in a few hours.
See, that this is particularly egregious because apparently he took topless photos of his wife and then threatened to post them, or not just threatened, did post them on Facebook. I mean, this guy is like a total dirtbag, and you know, here we are catching him stalking her. And Dr. Great Living, as a retired prosecutor, I think there's very likely a criminal case to come. I disagree with you about that. Doctor, you could be right, but I just don't see it. I see more retribution coming to the family in a civil case. I think it'd be difficult to try a case. And you're right. The next thing you say is most of these cases, criminal or not, are tried based on circumstantial evidence. Absolutely, doctor. You're 100% right. Circumstantial evidence, that from which inferences may be drawn. And circumstantial evidence can be extremely, extremely powerful evidence. But amazing that, you know, if this doesn't show what a total dirtbag this guy is, I don't know what does.
Appears to be this moment we're seeing at East Coast Honda. Let's roll the tape.
Walk away.
I'll show you the pictures.
Do you want to go to jail?
They'll be on Facebook in a few hours.
Alrighty, you'll be in jail in a few hours. Walk away.
Now, in that moment, we see this moment before, like a month before her death, the struggles that she is having in this relationship. She told police that day she was afraid for her life, and we're seeing what she is up against in that moment, Elizabeth.
Yeah, she's telling him, walk away, walk away. He's threatening to post a picture on Facebook. This really offers a lot of insight into the struggle she was having. The victim, I mean, is apparently told several people that she was trying to get away and out of this relationship. You also have some exclusive video pictures, right?
Yeah, pictures that actually correspond with what they discovered that day. They discovered GPS tracking device on her car, and they're called caltrops that are put into tires that police use to deflate tires. This is part of the evidence that the family is providing to police in South Carolina to say, hey, take a look at this. There's a pattern here of events that led up to her death. They're hoping that there can be some form of charges against this person.
All right. Rich McHugh reporting on this story yet again.
We are all hoping that there is some charges that could be filed against this guy. And our show last night, myself and Professor Mike Geary, we questioned in great depth why he was never arrested. 12 reports, 14 reports. How many reports does the Myrtle Beach police need to arrest somebody? This guy was stalking her. He was violating every DV law there is, and yet he was never arrested, which indicates to us, you know, something's wrong there. Something's obviously wrong. Pim, did you see that he has two blue trucks exactly the same and both of the same license plates? If that's not weird and suspicious, I don't know what is. Not only is it weird and suspicious, it's against the law. You can't have two trucks with the same license plate. That's illegal. Fairy dust, that still doesn't prove he didn't have someone do it on his behalf. Fairy dust, you know something, one of the things that this case has told us is that it needs a much more thorough investigation because everyone's asking questions. What if this? What if that? And a thorough investigation will slam the doors on all of that. But this was not a thorough enough investigation. Sharon Reynolds, he comes across of a sexual predator using his congregation to look out for victims. He can brainwash into his beliefs as these kind of pastors make up their own rules and people follow them. Weird. Extremely, extremely, extremely weird. Oh, Retretta. She became a YouTube member. Thank you so much. Welcome to the YouTube family, Retretta. And now you're an off-the-cuffer. That's what we call you guys. A police off-the-cuffer, but you're a part of the police off-the-cuff family. You know, guys, there's every day there seems to be more information coming out on this case. And as we follow it and as we find out and listen to who this pastor is, we're more and more enraged that he was allowed to get away with what he got away with in this case. And Wildcat, wait, she was found in the water. If she want to be seen, why would she end up? Wildcat, yes, she was found in the water. So that is known why she herself in the water or on the water's edge and fell in the water. We don't have the answers to that because they haven't released the crime scene investigation. We learn now that a crime scene unit did respond to the scene. And part of what they do, of course, is take pictures and measurements, use lasers and all type of stuff like that. Kira Little Sky, I truly believe she was followed, murdered, and Nicole's fake AI. Well, Kira Little Sky, you know something? That's a possibility. I'm not going to slam the door on that. Michelle DeMattis, gunshot residue on her hands. Monica Lynn, no, they didn't conduct an autopsy again, which I find outrageous. I find it outrageous that they didn't conduct an autopsy. In fact, I almost didn't want to believe it. But it happens to be a fact. They didn't. There's no autopsy report. Fractured fairy tales, and by hunch, I mean details reported, not settled on this horrible situation. So heartbreaking. It absolutely is. It's a heartbreaking story, but as this story, as with more facts and circumstances come, we're going to keep reporting this. Wendy Covington, yes, how convenient for him to sell their house to Solid Rock Church for $169,000 when it's worth $500,000. So Mica would only get $85,000 instead of $250,000 in a divorce. Well, he, you know, something, he thinks he's smart, but you know, even the tax man will come after you for something like that. Who did the appraisal? Was it appraised? You can't just decide what your home is worth. You have to get a professional appraisal. And then you can't just give your wife's estate half of the lowball price. You know, he's not as slick as he thinks he is. And that's perhaps why the FBI is coming after this guy, you know. And E.G. Moore, does South Carolina have a waiting period for gun purchase? Well, E.G. Moore, we saw her walk in and within an hour buy the gun. So I guess the answer is no. You know, she went in. You know, I'm a retired NYPD police officer, as you guys know. And New York is so stringent that for me now to buy ammo, not even a gun, buy ammo, they have to do a background check. So I just bought it in Florida and brought it back with me in my car, which is perfectly legal. I have what's called HR 218, which allows me to carry a gun in any state in the United States legally on the strength of me being a 27-year police officer and qualifying once a year for HR 218, which is the law. That's the number of the law. So some states, though, aren't as stringent. Michael Edge, no toxicology report or gun residue testing done. Well, Michael, there's not going to be any toxicology because that's all part of the autopsy. And it looks like they didn't do an autopsy. So there won't be a toxicology report. Retretta, so sad. I wish I knew how to tell her to get out years ago. Someone should have helped her. We've been saying that. Whit James is here's my here's my Wikipedia. Whit James, South Carolina does not have a waiting period for gun purchases. Whit, thank you so much. She's the expert in the Carolinas. Pim from the chat, the investigation was way too short. Why were they in such a hurry to get it done? Just today it's announced that he got a new truck that is an exact same kind of blue truck and had the same plate. Well, Yvette Perez, the people should not see him anymore. They're as bad as he is. Yvette, we question that too. Like, who would go to his church now? Betanan Stevens, does the preacher's father have an alibi? I think the preacher and his father would have been potentially exposed for criminal activity had she been able to be free. Yep. Dr. Great Living, he had tinted windows. You can't see anything. A certain level of tinted windows also, for what it's worth, is illegal, but it's unenforced. So people do whatever the hell they want, Sharon Reynolds from the chat, her husband might have belittled her into so many scenarios to make her feel bad. He probably said, you won't shoot yourself, so maybe okay, then I will, and he did it, but he still was part of it. Well, Sharon, we can conjecture, but we can also have to go with evidence, and we don't have evidence of that right now. MCR, finally caught alive again. I love that term, slam the door on the investigation. Definitive and decisive action. Sometimes I have all these police colloquial expressions that I don't even realize I'm using because it was part of my vernacular, it was part of my vocabulary for many, many years, and they just come out every once in a while. Encyclopedia of True Crime and the Unknown. FBI will put him under the federal prison. God works in mysterious ways. Can't get him for murder, so FBI will get him on RICO or some other federal charge. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice? I don't want to see this guy walk away. Whit James from the chat. South Carolina News reported that South Carolina has called in the FBI to investigate the church finances and Mica Miller's case. It doesn't say anything about Robeson County, North Carolina, called in the FBI. Whit James, let me put your picture back on the screen. The possibility is that the people that called in the FBI was the family. And they were insisting that the FBI come in. And, sometimes you can put the pressure on them. And sure enough, they're coming in and they're going to conduct an investigation. I just want to go through some of the, in this case, we lose sight sometimes that this case is about Mica Miller, a wonderful person, a wonderful human being. And we don't want to lose sight of it because this guy on the right, John Paul Miller, has sort of taken center stage. Pastor John Miller asked waitress to send him bikini pics after leaving his phone number and a large tip. And that's the picture of the waitress on that. And here she is again. Mica Miller purchasing a gun. Why did she do it? Well, we know now because she was being tortured by this man. And it makes all kinds of sense that he drove her to this. And of course, there she is walking into Dick's pawn shop, purchasing a 6-hour 9mm. No waiting period in South Carolina. Mica Miller went to the police multiple times in the months preceding her death, and nothing was done. That's one of the tragedies of this case. Mica Miller was manipulated, abused, and stalked by her husband. What happens now? Well, now we're learning that the FBI is going to come in, and I think that makes us all happy that the FBI hopefully will get some justice for Mica Miller's family. And here's in this episode, Mica Miller would a more aggressive police investigation have prevented the tragedy. And my answer to that is I think it would have. Pastor J.P. Miller, a man of the cloth, and I put a question mark at the end of that. And of course, this episode preach, Pastor Miller. Is he really going to continue to preach? And are there going to be people that will actually listen to this dude? Pim, I'm tired of people thinking that just because she is getting a gun does not mean it's for suicide. She wanted protection. She said if she got shot in the head, it would not be her. But Pim, she also called from the scene, the 911 operator, and said she was going to kill herself. So I think we have to take that as part of the evidence of this, not all the evidence. Simi Sharp, I'm sitting in a Chinese restaurant watching you, Sergeant Bill. I didn't want to wait to watch you. Well, Simi, thank you. That's very flattering. I'm being watched in Chinese restaurants and all over the world. Dom Von Bon Daisy, you would think the paper trail would be enough. It's never enough. The paper trail assists in the investigation. It's not the only thing they have. Promise S from the chat, being a pastor's wife, this makes me sick. Not only is this guy not a true pastor, but his actions are disgusting as a human being. Promise S, you're 100% correct. Dom Von Bon Daisy, he had put her on heavy drugs she didn't need. That's maybe why. Andy Jonitas, why did she cry out? This was heard by a witness. She was crying. It didn't say she was crying out as in crying out for help. She was crying. She was upset about what, if you believe that she committed suicide, she was upset about what she was about to do. Nancy Browning, what is he taking pictures of when she's telling him to walk away? What pictures was he taking? I think he was just on his phone because he was telling her he was going to, maybe he was even going to try to show her that he was going to post topless photos of her on Facebook, which he in fact actually did do. Benton and Stevens, deep fake videos can be made in real time, so I assume audio deep fakes can be made in real time for the night. Benton and Stevens, I've heard some of the things that AI can do, and I know that it can absolutely be done. Sharon Reynolds, he's a narcissist, sociopath, sexual predator behind closed doors. Yeah, I think you're right. Michael Edge, what if she bought the gun for protection, was meeting someone in the park, forced to pull the trigger? I don't know, but it's a theory, maybe, just to ask questions. Well, Michael, that's why we want to know more about the crime scene. We want to know more about the investigation. And right now, we weren't told a great deal. They just sort of scratched the surface of the investigation. Todd, who dat Clement, innocent until proven guilty, right? Let's see if there's a criminal trial. Maybe SLED is corrupt too. South Carolina Enforcement Division, right? They were all over the Murdoch case. I remember SLED. Melanie Lynn, she bought a gun, but did the bullet in her head come from that gun? Well, if they didn't do an autopsy, they didn't retrieve the bullet. That's just happens to be a fact. That's why I say this is a incomplete investigation. Andy Jonitas, I'm from the UK, Great Britain. Here they would have done a detailed investigation and an inquest. I'm confused that it is clear the husband was causing her extreme distress. Andy Jonitas, you're 100% right. This was not a thorough investigation. Tuxie Talk 1, Pauline Buckles. I would not put it past John to direct this to look like she did this because of him. He's an egotistical creep. He'd probably find delight in the thought that she had given up. You guys in the chat, you've asked some great questions. You're on top of this case. Many of you know a lot about this case. Retretta, this man is totally out to lunch. I hope her family takes this to the highest court of law. Mike is such a lovely person. Yeah, there's so many questions that could have been answered by an autopsy. And Schmitty, Sergeant Bill, I cannot adequately express my respect for you. Schmitty, thank you very much. It's very kind of you to say that. Dr. Great Living, Robbie Harvey has response from Myrtle Beach PD saying they have nothing to charge him with. I think then you maybe have to sit down with some attorneys, sit down with some prosecutors, sit down with the FBI, sit down with them and see if he did anything. Well, he did do things to her criminal, but now she's not alive to be the complainant. And most jurisdictions, if a complainant is dead, they're not going to charge. Although you can charge, in New York, we would charge People's State of New York versus South Carolina. People's State of South Carolina can be the complainant in these cases. Lorna Sawatsky, it seems like criminal negligence on behalf of the police to not do a toxicology report or autopsy. Something smells very fishy. Lorna, I 100% agree with you. I was almost taking it for granted that they did it because it's the law. If it's a suspicious death or an autopsy, or if it's a suspicious death or a suicide, an autopsy should be done. The Encyclopedia of True Crime and the Unknown. He isn't a pastor. We need to start calling him a wolf, a false prophet. He in no way meets biblical requirements to be considered a pastor. Wow. Encyclopedia of True Crime and the Unknown. There's many of them out there, though, too. There's many of these shysters out there. See these guys that, flying private jets and worth 40, 50 million. That's not a man of the cloth. That's a man of the dollar, Nina Chandro, I love using the cop lingo. That's great. That's really great. Leaf Grahamson, I wish governments would listen to experienced police officers about the failings of the modern system. This was just there was some failures here. Wildcat in the chat, the witness seemed odd as hell. He said she cried and he heard a bang, but he never said he heard water splash. He was in the lake. He also only found his stuff on dry land. Sarah Lee Johnson, he groomed her. No doubt he groomed her. A lot of you guys, did the police ask, Patsy Cline, did the police ask her if she wanted to press charges? I think clearly she wasn't making these reports for her health. I'm pretty sure that she absolutely wanted to press charges, especially with him stalking her. We said last night on last night's show that we felt, myself and Professor Mike Geary, that if he was arrested at least once, could have been arrested twice or three times, that perhaps would have saved her life, would have prevented him to continuing to stalk her and her need to kill herself. And it was never done, Promise S, he abuses his first wife, then Mica, and now his girlfriend while still married while he harasses Mica. If that doesn't speak to his lack of character, investigate him thoroughly. Promise S, totally agree with you. Guys, this case is a heartbreaker. It really is. It's so heartbreaking that someone 30 years old took their life, and someone that was never held to task is still out there, still playing the fool, Luna Sukabus, the police have been being negligent, and this is something that happens all the time to many victims. I personally gave up calling and reporting abuse after being failed 9+ times. Luna, I'm sorry that happened to you. I'm very sorry. Pim, this has been repeated a lot of times. She said she would not shoot herself in the head. In her video, she specifically says if she's shot in the head, it's not from her. She says it's her husband. I wasn't at the crime scene. I can't speak to that. JGL, Bill, what kind of drugs did the husband give her? Unknown. I don't know. But she complained in her video recorded statement that he was forcing her to take some kind of drugs that she didn't want to take. Unbelievable. With James, Solid Rock Church website is back up and running. Everyone should read the core values section that JP has on there. Yeah. people that don't have values always write core values. You know, they're all concerned with the core values, but yet they have no values themselves. Amy York, how do we know someone else was holding a gun to her head, making her say what she did to the 9/11 operator? And the fact that she was cremated immediately says a lot. You know, Amy, all of these things that you raise and others in the chat have raised, I don't dispute them because the investigation did not slam the door on any of these possibilities. And if a proper investigation, an autopsy, a toxicology, all those things were done, then we could say, okay, they showed that it was a suicide. But people are not satisfied because there wasn't a more in-depth investigation, and the investigative results were not published. So, Bill Curtis, I know everyone wants to believe there's a conspiracy involved, as they seemingly do about everything these days. Most times things are exactly as the police has stated, suicide. Well, Bill, you know something, I think that could be the case here. However, why not put out the investigative report? And Bill, my question here is also, I cannot believe there was not an autopsy wasn't done. So I have to question it. I do. And I've been to hundreds and hundreds of homicide scenes, hundreds of suicide scenes, and there's always an autopsy after a suicide. Because a suicide, you know, manner of death, I'll repeat it as I do ad nauseum: homicide, suicide, accidental, natural, and undetermined. You notice what the top two are, right? Homicide and suicide. And why are they together? Because a suicide without proper investigation very well could be a homicide. It could be a staged murder, couldn't it? So that's why they're the top two listed in manner of death. Folks, I stayed on longer than I had actually intended. I wanted to do a show today and just talk about Pastor Miller. Preach, Pastor Miller, preach, as we find out all these nefarious things about him and the fact that he's still going to preach. And we watch some of his preaching. Anyway, guys, I'm going to say one last time, if you're not subscribed, go on our YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, ring that bell, hit the like button, share us with your friends and your family. And always great to see you guys on Police Off the Cuff. So have a wonderful day. I'm Bill Cannon from Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories. Have a good night and God bless.
One episode just ain't enough.